Amazing! I'm back. We're here today at CityJS Athens, and it's insane over here. It's insanely hot. We just came off of a 4-hour break actually, and so if you can see me sweating, if you can see me just a bit, kind of sweaty over here, it's not because I'm sitting next to this guy. Although he does warm me up quite a bit.
I'm not like that.
It's because of the temperatures. So just get that thought out of your mind. Anyway, today I'm here with Ujjwal Sharma. So I just got to know Ujjwal. They put us in the same Airbnb actually.
They did.
And so we're actually Airbnb buddies after this conference. So I've known him for like a couple of days, but since they put us in the same place together, we basically feel like housemates.
Yeah.
And so I've just been making fun of him the whole time, really. But this time for you, we're going to be a bit more serious, a little bit more serious. Maybe I'll make a bit of fun of him.
I'll try.
We're going to try. We're going to try. So anyway, I'm here with Ujjwal Sharma. So Ujjwal, yeah, how are you? And you gave a talk this morning, right?
Yes, I did. I feel great. I was having second thoughts about having the talk immediately after Carl Simpson, but I feel really relieved and I'm really happy.
Oh wow! So the backstory there is like my room in the Airbnb. It has no curtains, and so I was kind of sleep deprived up until today, and so I was actually catching up on my sleep today. And Ujjwal just left me.
Oh yeah.
He didn't wake me up, and so I didn't actually get to go to his talk. He just left without me.
Yeah, actually,
so,
I didn't want you to sit during my no.
The truth comes out. There we go.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you had some sleep.
But Ujjwal, there's no sleep in JavaScript, so.
Yeah, there's no sleep and there's no rest in JavaScript.
There's no rest in JavaScript, so really sleeping means that I'm not really a JavaScript developer anymore.
Oh, well, what do you do?
So Ujjwal's part of TC39.
Yep.
He works on the standard specification for JavaScript, the language. And so if anyone knows about the lack of sleep in JavaScript, it would be him. In fact, I think set timeout and set interval aren't even specified in the JavaScript.
They are not. They're part of the hosts, but not part of the language themselves. So they're accessible from browsers and other non-browser runtimes like Node. But they aren't part of the JavaScript spec.
And so is console, I believe. Console is also another one. So it's a common misconception that all these things are part of JavaScript, the language, when in reality, none of these things are part of JavaScript, the language. They're all part of the host platform. They're all provided by the host platform. And then they use JavaScript in order to interface with the host platform using those functions as entry points to the host, fundamentally. And so all very interesting things. But anyway, you obviously didn't start at TC39. It's not like you were just born and you were part of TC39.
Yeah, I was born with a stamp bearing TC39. No,
I guess tell me more about yourself. So like the little I came to know about you is you're actually from India.
Yes.
And so like how did you even start? Like what's your journey getting to TC39? Like how did you start in India?
Do you want the full thing, the long version?
I mean, we're here now. I mean, it's up to the viewers, really. Like, it's up to what you think they would like. Yeah, I guess let's start and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, when I was young, I used to play a lot of video games, and with all the
what sort of video games did you play?
Oh, all sorts of them. But especially, so I am really passionate about world building. I'm really into role-play games, RPGs, because they usually have the most amount of world building. But you have like modern games, like new Doom games, for example, have a serious amount of world building into them also. But anyway, I was quite obsessed with world building. And of course, in my infinite wisdom as a kid, and in my hubris, I decided, okay, none of these games really are any good. And if I did them, I could maybe do a better job than entire hordes of developers like at Ubisoft. So I started to get into video games, first through modding existing video games. I used to mod like Age of Empires and so on. And later by, come on in.
It's okay. You can always photobomb Ujjwal. It's okay. Come. Okay. Come say hello. Come say hello to the viewers. We're here with essentially Katarina.
Eleftheria.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Hey, we wanted to come say hello because she gave a lovely talk as well, and so wanted to say hello to all of you. So anyway, good to see you, and thanks for photobombing Ujjwal. And we'll see you later. Yeah.
Thanks. You filled me up with confidence.
She filled him up with confidence. There you go. So you started modding Age of Empires.
Yes, because
I also played Age of Empires 1 or 2?
2.
2, nice. I love AoE 2. Are you playing AoE 4?
I do not play AoE 4, but I sometimes still play AoE 2.
I mean, like, I love AoE 2. And which civilization did you pick in AoE 2? Like, which one's your favorite?
Byzantines.
Byzantines.
Since
oh no, not the
Athens.
Byzantines.
Yeah, because I love the paladins.
Yeah, I mean those guys are strong. Like those horses are strong.
Yeah.
But admittedly, for me, I always played the Turks.
Okay.
Because the Turkish Janissaries just will destroy everything that comes its way. If you build up a mass of Janissaries, those Byzantine horses will be mowed down like nothing.
I would prove you wrong.
Well, it looks like we have a game on our hands, folks.
But yeah, so I used to play with my elder brother, who would never let me win, apparently. And I was so frustrated that I started creating mods in which I would have the upper hand.
You created mods or maps or both?
I created maps and mods.
Okay.
But mostly mods because, custom maps, it would be hard to give myself the advantage. And also he'd notice much more easily. So I tried to do it with mods, but I couldn't win. But it did get me into programming.
You know what? It's really funny because so like for me, I went to a high school that they gave everyone laptops, and so if you give a bunch of high school kids laptops, like what are you gonna do? Well, you're gonna play Counter-Strike on
I played a lot of Counter-Strike,
and you're gonna play like Age of Empires 2, and you're gonna play all these types of games. And so for me, I ended up making maps for all my friends. And so I created a map. It was called Taz Castle Blood. I'm not sure you played Castle Blood. And so I created a version of a map called Taz Castle Blood. So basically, the whole point of the map was every player starts out with a bunch of castles, and you get infinite resources, so you can just build units out of these castles. And so I kept playing Turks, and I just kept cranking out Janissaries. And like being the first player, because it was my map, like I was often the first player, I was often the one hosting. Like I basically gave myself an advantage. I gave player 1 the advantage over everyone else. And
you see, we're on the same page here.
And basically the way that the game goes is if you like the more kills you get, the more rewards you get. And so
you were just exponentially going off.
You basically get you basically start with like just Castle Age Janissaries, and then you get like blacksmith upgrades, and then you get like Imperial Age elite Janissaries, and then you keep getting more and more kills until fundamentally you get a villager. And then once you get a villager, then you can start building town centers. You can start building like archery range. You can start building everything. Because this whole time you don't have a villager yet. And so I find that really funny that like you kind of your journey was maybe similar to mine in the sense that like Age of Empires and like making maps and like modding it was a big inspiration for me, and it sounds like a big inspiration for you. But at the end of the day, like it was that like for me it was. Like building maps, sharing that experience with friends, having fun together, and kind of observing that kind of like social impact in a way of kind of the whole experience.
Also, it sort of instilled, I feel, in us, and maybe this is why I relate so much to you and your experiences. Is it instilled in me a sense of belonging, of community, of open source, and it carried on to the rest of my life, right? Where really even today, even though I do stuff for work. I'm still trying to build stuff for my friends, except this time my friends is the JavaScript community at large.
You have a lot of friends, sir.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I hope. But so I started doing these maps, and eventually like I realized, okay, I'm not gonna win. So it's not so useful.
What, you made your own mods and you didn't win?
Yes, he was still a better player.
What?
I am so sorry, but I still couldn't win. So I was like, oh yeah, this isn't working. And of course I told about the world building, so I wanted to build games where I knew that I could design them better. I felt at the point, right? Of course I was wrong. So I started getting into video games, and by the time I was getting into like serious video game development, I realized that this industry is probably not going to be for me because it's heavily reliant on artists, and I was an impatient kid with infinite time.
I was the exact same. I didn't want to do any of the artwork.
Yes,
it just took so long, and like I was so terrible at it. And like I just wanted to program.
Yeah. So I was an impatient kid with infinite time, but no friends. But especially no friends who would do art. So I said,
it's surprising you don't have any friends, because usually if you keep losing at a game, everyone wants to, be your friend so you can play games with them so,
Okay,
they can win?
Are those friends though, really? No, I was frustrated due to the need for art, and I started looking up things that I could do by just coding essentially, and web development sort of caught my eye. And well, I could do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which was all programming or like text, I guess, but didn't require any sort of art, and I could express myself and be creative without needing anybody else. And that sort of drew me into writing a lot of websites and eventually writing Node apps, right? Where I started realizing, okay, by this point I was in university.
And what did you go to university for comp sci, or did you go to university for something else?
Yeah, so apparently, like everybody else in India, I went to university studying.
Like everyone else in India, so all 1.4 billion Indians went into comp sci.
Yes,
wow.
like everybody else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This explains a lot.
Yeah, I was getting into IT in a way, like I was studying computer science, and one of my first, so I was starting to get excited about this thing called open source, and I was introduced by my sort of I guess seniors at university about Google Summer of Code, which is a program that Google organizes, sponsors at least, and which gives kids money to do open source. And now it's open to everyone, not just university students. Back then, it was exclusively for university students. So I tried to get in, and I spent my summer writing chatbots in Node. And that was quite a defining moment.
You know what? I also built chatbots, and it wasn't in Node, but our computer science curriculum at this high school I went to that gave everyone laptops, they had a computer science class, and so in grades 11 and 12 you could take comp sci, and for me I was actually started coding since I was 11 years old, so like well before grade 11 in high school. I think grade 11 you're like I think 16 and then 17. So I was coding for like 5-6 years by that point, 11 and 12, and so. Like for us, we had a program in Visual Basic. Like our comp sci curriculum was all Visual Basic, and I decided with a friend to build like a chat app, and so my friend built the server and I built the client for like the chat app, all in Visual Basic, and just like with video games, where kind of I had a bit of an advantage being player one in my Castleblood map. Within this chatbot, we ended up hard coding essentially like if it was basically you in our class, we would say like if name equals Ujjwal, download a bat file onto their computer.
What?
And then execute a hibernate command in a loop.
Oh my god!
And so you would say, my name is Ujjwal, enter, and then it would execute this bat file, would then hibernate your computer immediately. And then you turn your computer back on and it would hibernate immediately. And you turn it back on and it would hibernate immediately. You turn it back on, it would hibernate immediately. And so just like things like that, just like fiddling with computers and messing around, pranking people, and kind of like exploring the limits of what you could do with computers taught me a lot. It sounds like you didn't do any of that. It sounds like you built maybe a bit of a tamer. Did you prank your friends as well?
I did. So
I love it.
Yeah. So some of my friends were when I was in high school. Some of my friends were really getting into Facebook, but not everybody back then. Infrastructure problems in India. Not everybody had the best internet. So people were excited, but they didn't at times had means to access them. So I wrote a bat file which printed the ASCII sort of art offline Facebook, and asked people to enter credentials, but it would crash your computer. And I passed it around to my friends who were, in hindsight, so nice of them, like saints, to believe me that there was indeed an offline Facebook, and I had created it, and they would just enter their username and password. Of course, I wasn't smart enough to code a way for me to get that, but at least it would crash their computer and frustrate them.
It was like literally a physical offline book of faces in a way. It's like a magazine of faces in a way. That's really funny. Wow. So like and you purposely made it crash the computer.
Yes. That's the only thing it did. It was like 15 lines and it just
Oh
crashed
my
your computer.
goodness! Oh, I love it. But it made you understand computers and kind of explore computers and just have a bit of fun.
I think that didn't so much, but it was fun at least.
Yeah.
Most importantly, I when I was in high school, writing a lot of websites and like Rails apps and so on.
Right.
Rails was big back then.
Yeah.
Wow. In hindsight, that's well, I think people still use Rails. But anywho, I that gave me a taste of like this creative aspect to programming that sort of completely transformed my life in the sense that I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Like I was quite adamant that I wanted to do computer science.
And then apologies, and then you joined the other 1.4 billion people in India to do computer science in university, and
yes,
then
which was not fun.
Which was not fun.
Yeah, because
I mean, like what 1.4 billion people doing comp sci. I mean, I would assume your class sizes were quite large.
Well, I mean, I exaggerate a bit, but in all seriousness, I felt strongly that nobody else in my class wanted to be there for the most part. And,
really?
and
Did you just prank all of them? Did you just make all the computers crash?
No, by then I was not making people's computers crash. But I did feel like I, as somebody who was very excited about computing and very excited to build stuff, you know, like I was just finishing up classes, and every evening I was like, hey folks, let's hack things, and nobody else was interested, which made me quite sad. I really wanted to drop out, but for many reasons I couldn't.
What? Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. So you didn't like being there.
Mm-hmm.
Your impression was nobody else wanted to be there.
Yes.
And then you wanted to drop out.
Yes.
But
because
why
am I here? Like, I don't enjoy being here because, well, the reason I didn't enjoy being here is because nobody else wants to be here, right? If I could make a lot of friends doing what I like to do, I would love to stay there.
But
right?
like, why doesn't anyone else want to be there?
Well, because of many things. Wow, that is some great background. Yeah, so a lot of people in India, I guess it's partly cultural, is that a lot of people in India are pressured into engineering by friends and family and by society at large, who don't really feel like it. Like they're running against their passions. Like, you know, some people want to be artists and so on, but like they're not permitted to by their families, which means that they end up unwillingly joining these engineering institutions without.
Like that's interesting, because like for me growing up, so my mother's a criminal defense lawyer, my father's an emergency room surgeon, and growing up, you know, my parents always told me, Taz, you can be any type of doctor or lawyer you want to be.
Okay.
You could be a cardiologist, you could be a surgeon,
Yeah.
you could be a family practitioner.
Not a dentist,
You could be
though.
a criminal defense lawyer, you could be an ordinary family, like lawyer as well. Any type of doctor or lawyer you want to be, you can be it. But for me growing up, comp sci was a big no-no. It was like, okay, if you're going into computers, you've clearly failed at becoming a doctor or a lawyer. Therefore, you failed. But it sounds like in India, it was accepted and kind of promoted and maybe a little bit forced upon people in a way. Yeah.
Upon others, definitely. I guess my parents weren't quite upset either because I wanted to be a computer science major, but I didn't have that issue because I really wanted to do this anyway. Others not so much. So I had so many classmates who had really no intention of either being there or staying there. They were just there to do their bare minimum and get out of university with a job.
Right.
Which, well, to their favor, most of them did. They did get a job, and I guess that's fine, right? It's if that's what you want.
Yeah.
But
I mean, at the end of the day, like getting a job in tech, it's a pretty high-paying job. I mean, it's a good quality of life.
Yes.
I mean, the type of work that we do in tech, you know, often very fortunate and privileged to be able to do this type of thing in tech. And so I don't blame them for doing that.
Absolutely,
and like, at the end of the day, you know, obviously, like I have deep respect for doctors out there, but I don't think I could ever be a doctor.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I kind of cower away whenever I see a bit of blood. I'm like, oh God, no.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
And so, you know, like that line of work for me is really not for me. But computers is great because I mean, you you get to work remotely. You can work wherever there's internet. Like you're mainly just interfacing with the computer most of the time.
I think we shouldn't.
Computers are logical things, and so I really enjoy being in the field. But I can understand maybe the point you're trying to make, which is that it was kind of forced on a lot of people.
Yes, we shouldn't push people into it.
When anything's forced on you, you just kind of immediately reject it, and that's kind of my overall attitude as well.
Yeah.
So essentially, you didn't enjoy being there because nobody else enjoyed being there because it was forced on everyone.
Yes.
Was it forced on you too, or
it wasn't? I really wanted to do computer science, as I said. But it was not so pleasant being there because there weren't a lot of people like me who I could relate to and who would sit down and talk about computing. Not to be not so negative, there were a few exceptions to that. I mean, it wasn't like completely binary, but for the most part, people were not interested in computer science like the way you would expect students in a computer science university to be.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So you went to university for comp sci.
Yeah.
What did you study? Like, did you specialize in anything in comp sci, or did you study like general comp sci?
Fun stuff. So I studied a lot of JavaScript.
Really?
Yeah.
Like they teach you JavaScript in comp sci curriculums now?
Yes. So I'm young enough that Java was considered obsolete. But in all seriousness, Java was removed from curriculum from my university by the time I started. You had two paths. You could either go all in on Python and become like data scientist, ML stuff. They could teach you like the nitty-gritties of that, which I didn't really like. I felt it wasn't for me. And because I was already writing some web JavaScript related stuff, I decided to go to the other path, where they started with teaching you JavaScript and then eventually moved on to Node and somehow made a segue into consensus algorithms and so on, where you could, figure out your own crypto stuff.
Interesting. Huh. All in JavaScript?
All in JavaScript.
Wow.
We were writing that stuff in Node.
What? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a uncommon use case for JavaScript. I mean, oftentimes, like, all of that is not built in JavaScript. Oftentimes, like, it's built in like Golang or like some other language. But I guess for educational purposes, you wanted something accessible and understandable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Golang was not as dominant when they, I believe, started designing this course. So I suppose maybe at some point in the future they switch.
Like in my own opinion, I think JavaScript is probably the best language to learn.
Yes.
If you're
it's the most versatile
out, it's
language.
The most versatile. It's the most popular language. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of content out there. It's maybe a double-edged sword because it's been around for so long. It's like which courses and which content do I choose as a newcomer? But at the end of the day, it's the most versatile. You could do the most things with JavaScript as a language. You can do consensus algorithms all the way to like making a web page flash. You can do really anything in between. You can do robotics. You can do a whole bunch of different things with JavaScript, right? I'm not saying it's maybe the most optimal thing for the job, but
but it is versatile. And if
you can argue that what is the most optimal thing for the job in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can
learn a single programming language,
the versatility allows you to explore the space and then understand the space, understand the actual dynamics of the space, and then maybe pick a better tool for the job, depending on whatever you defined. But that's really interesting. Okay, wow. So you did consensus algorithms.
Yes.
Is that why you're so big into the Byzantines?
No. I was into the Byzantines before the algorithms. But yeah, that's not something that I was big in by any means. I by the time that they got to this stuff, I was already dabbling in compilers. In my sophomore year in university, I started dabbling into Node Core. So I eventually became a Node Core collaborator.
Oh wow, cool.
And I went to Berlin for the Node summit, the collaborator summit, where I met a bunch of really cool people at V8. And I felt, well, what if I started working on this? But I didn't know any C++. I did know C++ to the point which they taught me C++ in school, which is basically nothing. So I had to learn it from scratch again. But I started learning C++. I started getting deeper into V8, which is how I eventually ended up at Igalia, which is where I work now.
So okay. So let's go through a few things there. So you went to university, consensus algorithms, JavaScript. You went to a conference in Germany.
Yeah.
When was this? This was still when you were in university?
Yes. So this was right after my sophomore year.
Right after sophomore year. Okay.
Yes. So this was summer 2018.
2018, and then got involved with V8.
Yeah.
And then through that you started working at Igalia.
Yes.
Was this still when you were in university, or?
Yes. So I started working at Igalia during my final year at university.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And Igalia, apologies. And what does Igalia do?
A lot of fun stuff. So Igalia is a quite dominant consultancy when it comes to open source software. So, but a lot of our most interesting work, especially to your viewership, would be our contribution to web browsers.
I don't know what you know. I don't think you know what my viewership wants, Ujjwal. But
okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But sorry, your contributions to V8.
Yes, my contributions to V8.
Your contributions to V8.
Igalia's contributions to literally every web engine out there. And then apart from that, we also do things like multimedia and like Linux graphics, so on. All the way in most dominant open source communities. But I personally love web browsers, so that's what I think I should be talking about.
But Igalia does kind of like general open source consulting. It has a lot of different areas that in
projects where we have a lot of experience working in. Certainly, for example, in most popular browsing engines like Blink, which is in Chromium or JavaScript Core or WebKit, we have a lot of experts in the area, people who have been working on these projects for years now, and well, these are the projects that we are most comfortable working in. But there's certainly a lot to be done in this space, so we move around from time to time.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. So you started working at Igalia on V8.
Yes.
In your final year of university.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing you finished university.
Yes. Well, I couldn't finish university before COVID because COVID, it didn't wait for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't really.
I'm curious. So you said you wanted to drop out this whole time. How come you didn't just drop out?
Well, let me tell you about living in India. Apparently, you need a degree to get a good worker visa. So, and because I really wanted to live in Europe, which I do now, I wanted to finish my degree to get that good worker visa, which I did. I mean, in all fairness, they did give me the good worker visa.
Wow. But you. Okay, so you had to complete your degree. You didn't enjoy your degree. You enjoy working at Igalia. You enjoy working on V8. You enjoy all those open source lovely things. But you didn't enjoy your time at university mainly because of kind of the kind of negative attitude of your peers. Which makes sense. But you stuck it out because you needed a degree in order to get a visa, in order to move to Europe, which you are now. And you're still working at Igalia now in Europe. Okay, but you didn't move to Europe to work with Igalia. You were working with Igalia before when you were still in India.
Yes. So I started working. I had two goals. One was to get a great job that I loved, which was Igalia at some point, and another goal was to move to Europe. These are two different goals, which were essentially solved in the same stroke. By getting a job at Igalia, I got a job that I really liked, as well as the opportunity to move to Spain, which I like so far.
How long did it take you to get to Spain?
It took a while because of COVID. So for the longest time, because of all the restrictions, the embassy wouldn't give me a visa. But earlier this year, I realized that okay, now they would give me a visa, and I applied the earliest moment I could, really. And when I got a visa, I moved. I didn't wait much.
Okay. Very interesting. Awesome. Well, it's quite the journey, isn't it?
That's a lot,
that's a lot going on there, a lot to unpack. But yeah, thanks for sharing, and obviously good to have you here in Europe. So, you're here at CityJS Athens. Are you giving more talks, more conferences, more?
Yeah,
You're gonna be around more.
I would be. I will be in NodeJS in Darmstadt in Germany in
Lovely.
June. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I hope you can see Ujjwal there. And thank you so much for your time. It was lovely speaking with you and hanging out with you.
Thank you for talking
and yeah, go check out his work. Go check out his talks online and follow this guy. He's up to some really interesting stuff. But anyway, I hope to see you around more, buddy. And I'll continue to make fun of him offline just for you lovely viewers. Awesome. We'll see you next time. Bye now.